Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hero Nation Show, the place where business owners and entrepreneurs just like you come to learn tools and tactics to live more epic lives. My name is John Rinehart, and this is my little sidekick beside me, Wayne Salmans. How to tell your clients that they're idiots.
Yes.
How to deal with really hard, brutal clients.
Like, conflict and tough clients is such a huge part of what we do.
It is.
And how many tough clients are just tough because of something they're going through? They're not jerk people. Sometimes they're just showing up that way because some stuff that they're going through. So I think first off, it's going into and clarifying or maybe identifying what some of the things that makes somebody a tough client, right? So a lot of times, like, it's lack of clarity, or they've got stuff going on in their personal life, or there's fear of future going on, or there's all this other stuff. And one of the things we say often is the issue usually isn't the issue.
Yeah.
Right.
They're trying to solve a problem. There's other things going on other than you. More than likely, especially when you're being hired by a client, you are not the center of that client's universe. Like, as much as we like to puff ourselves up and we're like, I am the one and only person, your shining messiah. In that person's life, you're like a blip on the radar. And so don't take it personal.
And I think that's step one, right? Step one is don't take it personal, meaning you've got to get one of the skills you have to develop if you want to be an incredible leader or incredible salesperson, a business owner, is you've got to be able to go, we say this all the time, go through the smoke and down to the fire. Right? The smoke is the interest rate sucks, or really they want to move closing day one day, like, or all this kind of stuff, right? Shipping's delayed by 2 days. That's all the smoke. The fire is I'm afraid if we don't close on time, the blank's going to happen over here, or I'm afraid of this, or there's fear of future, or if this happens, what's going to happen in my relationship? There's all these other things going on. So you got to have the ability to go, not make it about you, and go through the drama to the actual issues.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like sometimes we kind of react to that, right? Because sometimes it kind of feels like that saying, like, the customer's always right, and you're like, no, you're wrong. You're 100% wrong. And I have a story that kind of goes along with this, is that, you know, when we were a pretty small company, we got a really big client, and we did a video for him. It was a good video, and someone, this was outside our control, had messed with the audio system. I remember the story. Someone from had messed with the audio, and the audio was not great. And then the worst part happened, which was that when we had finished the project, we were there to hand it off. We hadn't made a backup of the hard drive. That was the last time I ever made that mistake. We hadn't made a backup of the hard drive, and when we plugged in the hard drive, it wiped. And we plugged the hard drive into their system. Their system wiped all of our work, including all the work that we had done. This was like $100,000 once-in-a-lifetime kind of event that had been specifically made for us to film. It wasn't a deal where, like, it was there to.
So how did they respond?
It was a bad deal
when you went back to them and said, "We need to do over."
They were like, "This is bad," and they were really upset. And they're like, "And you're going to be paying to put this event on again, which was going to cost me $100,000." The thing that actually got me through, because I was getting ready to just go in and be like, "If you're going to sue me, like, freaking sue me! Like, we're going on with this thing." I was talking with a man by the name of Hoppy Hayden, who was he was a contractor at the time. I think he's actually a judge now. And he goes, I was just complaining about, like, the customer's always right, like, BS, the customer's always right. And his statement with me, like, just hit me right between the eyes. And he goes, "Look, the customer is always right, even if they were only right by choosing you. You have to show them that even if they're wrong in their decision, even if they're making the wrong, if their decision doesn't work, you have to convince them that, hey, I know you're wrong in this, but you're right for choosing me because I'm going to help you get out of this."
And I think where that leads is, just because you're right doesn't mean that delivery isn't important. And here's what I mean. I see this happen all the time, especially, you know, with real estate agents and other business owners. They think that just because they're right, that's enough. Just being right isn't enough. And what I mean by that is you've got to learn a skill of how do I intelligently, with care and candor, how do I balance care and candor and guide people to the right decision? My job is to guide them by not triggering them, by asking them the right questions, by guiding them through the stuff. And it's a balance of using care and candor. And I think a lot of business owners, they think that just because they know what the right thing to do, that they can just say that and that's enough, right? You've got to guide people on there. So as we look at this, really, you're going to have a lot of conflict. And you have a couple options. One option is do nothing, which eventually doesn't usually work out. Another option is address it indirectly. We see this in the workplace all the time. People address it indirectly, which basically means passive aggressively, which doesn't work. Or people address it directly, correctly, right, in the right way, or they exit the relationship. And when I say, I think number 4 is one of the most subtle. People will exit the relationship before they actually exit the relationship. And I think you see this in business relationships a lot. The relationship actually dies way before it actually dies, right? Because you didn't handle the conflict the right way, or you did something else. So I think what we're talking about is how do you handle things directly in the right way. So if you go and if you want to go deeper on this and you want to go get the 8 steps to 30 million, we actually lay this all out in the 8 steps to 30 million with this list of questions, everything else you can go to. So if you want to go grab that, if you really want to get on this, but we talk about kind of this whole philosophy of, we called it the donut. But it was basically just, you've got to deal with their feelings. You got to open up conversation, never assume, understand the next step, decide on the action. There's a lot to this. And if we could give you everything in a 5-minute podcast, we would. We'll give you some key points here in the next couple minutes. This is a skill you better go get good at.
Yep. Yeah. Because honestly, conflict resolution just in general is great.
What's the cost of not getting good at this?
The real cost of every bad job that you do is 12, right? So if the job that you're doing is $10,000, right, that you're going to make off of this job, and you do it incorrectly, and you have a customer that leaves unhappy, you just lost $120,000.
Easy.
No problem at all.
Right. We were talking to Scott about this morning. You have a $10 an hour employee quit because you can handle conflict. That's probably going to cost you just right off the bat. It's going to cost you $3,000-$4,000 right off the bat to replace that $10 an hour employee. And we're not talking about the bigger stuff. This is wildly expensive to not become a master of handling tough clients.
We talk about raving fans.
Yeah.
We should talk about raging enemies.
Yeah.
Because a raving fan, goes and tells everyone about how amazing you are.
If you do a good job, they might tell one person. If you do a bad job, they'll probably tell 10.
At least, right? So you want to leave a beautiful taste, no matter where you go. The last taste better be sweet.
Well, and so much of that means that doesn't necessarily mean you have to do a perfect job. No. It means you're able to handle the tough stuff that comes up. Right. So I used to tell my real estate clients, I would say something's going to happen in this transaction. It almost always does, that we didn't see coming, and we're going to learn. We're going to walk through it. If that doesn't happen, that's called a unicorn transaction. But something's going to happen, and I'm here to help you with that.
Well, and here's the thing: would you rather have a reaction of someone being like, yeah, everything just fell apart, it went horribly, I didn't like how they handled everything, and it went bad? Or would you rather have the respect of someone that was like, you know what, it was a really hard transaction. There was some things that were there that were really hard. It was very difficult for us, but you know what, even though I didn't like the transaction that much, I believe that Wayne is an honest person. He has integrity. We just got dealt a bad hand. If you that right there, I'll listen to that, because that right there is that tells them they went through the storm and they still came out the other side. I'll totally take that over anything else.
So I think on this, there's a couple things I think are really critical here. Just kind of shortcuts to having to be able to handle some of the stuff. One, I think, is a lot of times people just need to vent, right? So a lot of times, can you be a great listener, without having to be right. I think so much conflict is just because you're trying to prove I did do the right thing. Nobody cares if you were right. Sometimes you just need to let people vent a little bit. And I think that's so critical. I think another thing that's critical is, and this is kind of interesting. We'll see if you agree with me on this. I see so many people that are overly apologetic. And this is like, they'll throw themselves on the sword. So I think going from, instead of being overly, I'm so sorry, I can't believe that happened, I'm so sorry, I can't believe that happened to you, whatever it is, whether it was something, it was my fault or not, right? Instead of overly apologizing, or like, for an instance, if I'm late to a call, instead of giving this huge, like, I'm so sorry thing, one of the things I'll say now is, I'm so grateful that you're patient. Or you called me last night, I didn't call you back till the morning. I'm so grateful that you respect my family time, and I'm thrilled that we could get on the phone this morning.
Like every evening.
That's like every day. That was like a real, yeah. But instead of, I think sometimes we're overly apologetic.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need to shift that and go, I hear you, I care, I'm listening. I'm so grateful that you're sharing this with me. I'm so grateful that we're actually having this conversation instead of you just going off pissed off. I mean, so being in the thing, and then practicing your scripts and dialogues. Right? Like feel, felt, found, is such a simple one that's so freaking powerful. So I think all of that put together is a key piece. So,
I think the biggest thing is, can you make your client feel safe? Right? Is your client safe in your hands?
Yeah.
And if someone feels safe, then they let go of the control. And I was talking to one of my editors the other day, in Australia, and she was looking at how sometimes I do my video editing, and she's like, hang on, your clients don't want any feedback? They're not making like a dozen changes on every video? I'm like, no, they trust my creativity. They trust exactly what I do. And she was like, that's very different. I've never done that before. I'm like, well, that's because I create trust that what I'm doing is the correct decision. And if we don't do something right, then we'll keep moving and kind of keep walking through it.
Well, and I think what you're so good at is you spend time up front that saves you a ton of time in the end.
Yeah.
So if you know what your client's why is, if you know what they're really after, if you know what's really going on, it saves you so much time and energy down the road, because like you said, they trust you're able to have deeper conversations. So if we're going to wrap this up,
is huge.
Deal with the client's issue, listen to what they have to say, right? Open up the conversation, mirror and match, hear them, gain clarity, make sure you're not assuming what the issue is, and you're listening long enough to actually figure out what the real issue is, right? Invite feedback, right, with great questions, and then work together. It's you and me against the market. It's you and me against the world, right?
What are we going to do? It's always a we situation. Yeah. It's never a you or I situation.
Correct. Yeah. And then establish what you're going to do next, and just realize this is part of the process. If you want to be a great salesperson, you want to run a great business, go spend the time to get great at tough clients and handling conflict.
Cool. Guys, if you want any of the stuff, you want to look up like some of the stuff on conflict, some of the stuff that we have online, make sure you just go to theheronation.com, check it up. Guys, like, share, subscribe. If you have any questions you want us to answer, you can put them down in the comments down below. We always answer all the questions that we get down there. Maybe you have an idea. Maybe you have a better way of dealing with conflict, or I would love to hear your best stories that you have, either of nightmare clients that you had, or clients that you had that you were able to kind of pacify and be able to actually turn a bad situation into a great situation. I'd love to read those down below. Guys, until next time, be your own hero.